So right now Rick's doing a test drive of the machine. He's running all the systems. Really looking for things that need adjustment, like are the side wipers wiping well? Is the squeegee vacuuming up all the water? You can test forward and reverse. That shows him that it picks the squeegee up automatically in reverse.
Next, we're going to check some of the componentry on the steering column here to make sure everything is functioning properly. We have the horn, the tilt steering knob, make sure it indents automatically into multiple spots. Check the steering lock to lock. Make sure there isn't any binding, clicking, any funny noises. And that works perfectly. Next, we'll check the e-stop. This is an emergency feature if something should happen to the machine. You can hit that button. We actually get a 7900 code on the dash. To undo the e-stop, simply click it forward, but the machine won't run right now. It's another safety feature built in. We actually have to cycle the key to clear that code in the computer. So here we're going to check all the controls. Make sure our key switch works, comes in and out nicely, actually turns the machine off. I'm going to get out of the seat and turn the machine on. And that will activate the 1E03 code. That means the seat switch is working. So if I press the gas pedal now while I'm not seated, the machine won't operate. If I sit down in the seat, the machine does operate. And now I'm going to check my water level, see if that switch is working. Every time I hit it up, the bars go up. Every time I hit it down, the bars go down. Same with the down pressure switch here. That is functioning correctly. I'll check the function of the scrub switch. You can hear the scrub deck going down and up. We'll test the same on the squeegee. Yep, so squeegee went down, vac motor went on instantly. When I raise it, the vac motor will stay on for about 10 seconds. And then I'll check the side broom switch. Side brooms are functioning. And then we're going to check forward and reverse. Machine goes backwards, machine goes forward. Perfect. And now we're going to go fill the machine so we can actually test drive it.
So after we do the test drive on the machine to test functionality and adjustment, see if we see any flaws that we're going to want to address during the PM, we want to drain all the water out of the tanks so that when we open the tanks and things like that to work on the machine, we're not dealing with water weight. I'm going to drain the machine, clean it, and get it ready. Rick's going to fill out paperwork with the serial number and the customer name and things like that to get our PM sheet filled out for the customer.
Sounds good. See you in a bit.
Drain solution, the clear hose. Okay, with the machine emptied of water, we're going to go through and basically we're going to follow what would be the water flow through the machine, and that's a good logical way to go through and check all the systems and make sure you know where you're at and what you're looking for. So first thing would be where we fill the machine. The solution tank has a stainless strainer basket. This keeps people from tossing debris into your solution tank. Any debris in the tank then ends up in the filter, and if the filter is clogged, then may end up in your valves. So we want to make sure this is cleaned out, that it's in good condition, and that it's in the machine. So that's there. So then from there, water would flow out of the tank and into the solution filter here inside the service panel. We're actually going to check everything while we're here at the service panel. We're going to go ahead and check it all. So I have a solution screen. So there's always some water left in the lines, even after you drain the tank. So when I unscrew this, we're going to get a little bit of water. So I just work quick. I unscrew it, pull it down, pull the filter, put the housing back up. The stainless filter here may have debris on it that we want to rinse off. If a machine is sat for a long time with solution in the tank, you may actually get some coagulated solution that builds up on this screen. It may not look dirty, but that buildup will keep water from flowing through this fine mesh screen. So on every PM, we want to take these out, we want to rinse them in hot water and then put them back in the machine. So I've got two filters here to clean. On this machine, on every machine is a solution filter. This machine has the optional 0-3 system, so I have a second filter that takes care of water that's feeding through the 0-3 system. So I have 2 filters on this machine to clean here in the service panel. On a machine that doesn't have 0, I would just have 1 filter. Next in line here is the duckbill valve. That is for any water that escapes or blows by the float ball in the recovery tank. The system will capture that. I want to make sure that this duckbill is clean and clear of any debris, and that when I pinch it, it opens up, right? So under vacuum, it'll suck closed. We just want to make sure that it will open when we shut the machine off, so it will drain any water out of the catch box. The blue hose here is a blow-by. If somebody has a problem and runs too much water, that they blow water through the vac fan. We want to make sure this is unobstructed and that the hose is here. Next in line is a catch. That is basically I call it the evidence that water blew through. All the water will drain. We catch a little bit of that water that went through the vac motor. We want to see that. So on a PM, if you have dirty water in here, you know that the customer has run water through the system at a rate that basically got through the vac motor fan. Last thing here, this is a drain for my SUD system, onboard chemical. If you don't have the SUD system, you won't have this drain. And this is if you wanted to remove the chemical from the SUDS container that's molded into the machine, you'd open this valve. You want to catch that detergent in a bottle and then close the valve. Then again, the 0-3 filter, that's just like the black filter I took off the other end. The last thing that's here is a drain for any water or excess electrolyte that may be in the battery box. Folks making mistakes when they're filling batteries and they spill into the box. Folks washing their machine and water gets in the box. If we pinch this clip, we can drain any liquids that are inside the battery box. Best that you pull some hose out and you catch that in a container, because it will contain some of the battery acid. After we've inspected everything in the service panel, we're going to take a look at the scrub deck. So this machine happens to be a cylindrical scrubber. So it's got side wipers here that I need to release, and I can visually inspect. I want to make sure they're not torn inside or out. They look pretty good. If they were damaged, I can actually unbolt them, flip them over, and bolt them back in place. So every set of side wipers can be flipped one time. Next, I want to pull out the debris tray. I want to inspect to make sure it's cleaned out, that there's no damage to it, that it moves in and out of the machine easily, which obviously it did. Put it back in place. Then there's a level on the deck of all of our machines. That tells me that this machine has not been crashed into anything or hit anything on the floor that caused any kind of damage or deflection in the arms for the deck. The deck's sitting level, so it moves to the floor level, and basically that allows full contact with both brushes, consistent scrubbing and brush wear. To inspect the brushes, push the button, pull the door. I do want to inspect this door. I want to make sure it's clean. I want to make sure nothing's wrapped in behind this hub, that the hub moves easily. So this is the idler hub for the back brush. Now I pull out the brush. I want to inspect the brush itself to make sure nothing's wrapped in the brush, that there's no damage to the bristles. And when I pulled it out, I stood it on its end to inspect it. And that allows me to know which end was in the machine. When I put it back in, I'm going to reverse it. So put the brush back in. Easiest to get it to find where to go with your foot. I don't know why it's easier than with your hand, but if you step straight down, the hub on the other end and the brush seem to just find each other, and the brush goes right in. So now while I'm in here, I want to check condition of the belt that drives the front brush, the pulleys, make sure there's no damage. Everything looks aligned. The belt tension is good. There should be a little play in the belt. It shouldn't be tight as a piano string. So everything there looks good. So before we're done on this side, the last thing we want to do is just shine a flashlight in and make sure everything's good with the scrub motor wires. And I can see them run from the front of the housing back to the two motor heads, and everything looks good.
Next, we're going to check the squeegee blades, the squeegee, the casters, and everything involved with the squeegee system. Probably flip the blades. So on this machine, not all the Riders have it, but this one has a flip-up bumper, which gives you easier access. There's a pin that sits in a grommet, and then you can place it in there once it's lifted. So to undo the squeegee, simply loosen those knobs, remove your squeegee hose, and the squeegee slides right off. You'll notice on these, it's actually stamped with the size number, and the E on here indicates that it's E-coated, so it's plated and then powder-coated. When you're running the squeegee on the floor, this inside edge is the one that comes in contact and wears. So as that starts to lose performance and gets a bevel on it, you're going to need to flip it over to a fresh side. So once this wears out, we can flip it to this side, and then there's actually two more up top. I'm going to show you how that's done. So undo your over center latch, pull this stainless bar off, pull the large one off, it just slides right off that bolt. Kind of feed the blade around that bolt, and it'll pop off all those stainless bolt heads. Now that side was actually good. As you saw, we pre-ran the machine before we did anything else to it. So I'm actually going to put that side back down because it worked perfectly. And visually inspecting it, I don't see much wear on it at all. So just do the reverse to reassemble it. Match up all the bolt heads. And it's that quick. And I'm going to check the condition of the casters. You can see this jam bolt is actually up, so it's not jammed. It's in good, the height is good. This is where you would adjust the ride height of your squeegee. So I'm actually going to remove the tool that comes with the machine, which is mounted right on the squeegee plate. Undo this yellow knob, slide your tool off, and I'm actually going to tighten that jam bolt down so the squeegee does not come out of adjustment. And there we go. I'm also going to check the your pitch adjustment. These jam nuts are loose as well, but I know the pitch is good, so I'm going to lock them in place. When we do our final run, if I see any discrepancy, then we can do our final adjustment on the squeegee. I'm going to make sure to put the tool back in place. Remount my squeegee, and then install the vacuum hose. And now Kevin's going to talk about the hoses and options on the back of the machine.
So while I'm at the back inspecting the hoses, this particular GTR has two of our popular options on it. The first is the spray hose. The spray hose is powered by a flow jet pump underneath the chassis. It pumps solution out of the tank. We want to make sure it's working. So I have a switch to test. So the on-off is here. And then there's a jug of our 755 high power PowerCat solution. I can just open my recovery tank and fire the hose. You hear the pump run. You can see the water fire. So I know this system's working. I want to turn it off and then release the line pressure so that nobody comes by and does me a favor and shoots me with it. The other thing that this machine has is the onboard charger. And all I want to do with that is just inspect that the power cord's in good condition. So the cord rides with the machine, and because things happen, I want to make sure that all of the cord is in good shape. There's no damage to the insulation on the wire. And if there is, this is a common computer wire with a plug up into the charger. So the wire itself can be unplugged from the charger and plugged in for replacement if there's damage. Okay, I've inspected my hoses coming into the recovery tank. Now I'm going to inspect the critical parts of the recovery tank. First and foremost is the clear domed lid. I want to inspect it for damage and any cracking. This one's in good condition. You can tip it over. I want to check the gasket that seals it closed to the machine, make sure there's no tears in the gasket, and that the gasket's in good condition, and it is. So now I'm looking at internally the hose that comes from the squeegee into the drain saver basket. This hose is inside the vacuum of the machine. A little nick in this hose is not as critical as any of the hoses that are outside of the machine. So it's in good condition. Next, I go to my drain saver basket. I want to make sure that it's free of debris. If it's full, I want to empty it in the trash, rinse it out good, put it back into the machine. And one thing here, we do want this flap to be in here. This keeps the water that comes into the box from just blowing out all over the inside of the machine. It'll coat the underside of the clear lid. We won't be able to see things. So everything's here. It's in fair order for cleanliness. Put it back in the machine and make sure we remember to put our vac line back into the box. So water comes up through the drain saver. It captures debris. May need to be emptied. On the other side of the baffle wall, just like in all of our scrubbers, we have our filter box. And this is filtering fine debris, also preventing moisture from getting to the vac motor. So I want to pull it out. One, I want to make sure it's there. Two, it can be dirty, but if I hold it up to a light and I can see through it, it's in good operating shape. This one I might want to rinse out before I put it back in. So rinse it, put it back into the machine, and put the lid back on. All of our Rider scrubbers are front wheel drive, front steer, and have a parking brake on them. So part of the PM is we want to inspect the movement of that. Rick did it earlier. I'm going to do it again. Lock to lock with the steering. I'm listening for any kind of noisy or uneven movement of the steering chain. It's up underneath where I can't show it to you. If it's noisy, it might need to be tightened or lubricated. But it moves pretty freely. I can also inspect the tire for any debris stuck in the tread, any chunks torn out of it. That sort of thing is very evident when you do your test drive at the beginning. You will feel the bump, bump, bump of damage to the tire or things stuck in the tread. You do want to make sure you remove that, especially in places like machine shops and manufacturing where nails, screws, and metal shavings will start to get in the tires or cut pieces out of the tires. Traction's important on a scrubber. They run in the wet. Good tires is the basis of good traction. So now we're going to talk about an important safety mechanism on the machine, and that is the automatic parking brake. So when an operator sits on the seat, steps on the foot pedal, this brake releases automatically. When they're running, if they take their foot off the pedal, the motor winds out, stops the machine, and the parking brake sets to hold the machine in position, and you can hear the brake go on and off when I touch the pedal. So it seems to be functioning. If I push on the machine, it's held in place, so it is functioning. If I had to push the machine, I would want to release the parking brake, and now the machine will roll. This machine is equipped with our 03 and SUD system, and Rick's going to show you the care and maintenance of that system that needs to be looked at on a PM.
So right here is your onboard SUD system reservoir. This is where you pour your concentrate degreaser. So I'm going to check that first to make sure there is or isn't degreaser in here. There is solution in here right now. So what we're going to have to do before we service the SUD system is actually drain it out. So we're going to recapture it. Like we showed you in an earlier video, the green tube on the machine is your SUD's drain. This is where we're going to recollect our solution, and we're also going to flush the system. So I open that valve. We are now recollecting our floor cleaning solution, so we're not wasting any of it. Okay, now that that's drained, I'm going to put the cap on, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to fill the reservoir with hot water. So now that will fill all the lines with the water, and we're going to let it sit for a while and then drain it and then refill with our degreaser. While we're letting this sit, we can actually service our zero system. We are going to change the air cartridge on the machine, which is right around over here. So this is the box where all your ozone is generated. Really the only serviceable item on this system is your air dryer. This is drying all the air before it actually makes ozone. In here are 3 Corona generators, which have about a 60,000 volt arc and is shattering oxygen into O1s, and those immediately attach to other O2s, which make O3, which is nature's most powerful oxidizer, stronger than bleach, yet it's 000. So because we're generating ozone, it has that massive arc in there. The air needs to be dry as possible. So this needs to be replaced. I'm gonna take the old one off, throw it. I'm gonna get a brand new one. Reinstall the nipple into the hose, push out your retainer clips, and lock it into place. After letting the hot water sit in the suds reservoir and all the lines, it decoagulates all that chemical buildup. So now we're going to drain that out and flush the system.
Every machine, if you go onto you read its QR code, you can get the paperwork to do the PM. And there's a battery chart for that machine, has the right battery pack in the right configuration, and you can check everything, record the acid density, clear or dark for the quality of the acid in the battery cells, and whether or not they're overfilled, properly filled, or low. So that the check sheet is here. We're going to go through the battery pack. I'll record the data as Rick tests the cells.
So a couple things we need before we get started on the batteries. You're going to need some nitro gloves. You're going to need your hydrometer, which is how we measure the effectiveness of the battery acid, some paper towel, and a flashlight to check the fluid level. So I'm going to lift the tank, pop it up. Now we undo all the caps. Then I'm going to take my flashlight and check the level of all the cells. Make sure it's above the plates, but below the bottom ring of the Trojan battery.
An important note on checking the electrolyte level in your battery is you check that level after the batteries are charged.
Now we're going to check battery 1, position 1, and go in a specific order that's listed on the PM sheet. And I'm going to read these off to Kevin, and he's going to write them all down. That is a 1200. It's okay, but not perfect. Okay, now that I'm done with checking the batteries and documenting all the readings, I can put away my hydrometer. I'm going to put all the caps back on, and then I'm going to check all the wire connections to make sure we don't have any loose connections. Loose connections, instead of having full contact, will have a very small amount of contact. The smaller the contact, with all that power going through there, that could actually heat up and damage the battery. Okay, now I'm going to check all the connections, make sure none of these wires move, make sure there's no corrosion buildup. And then the last step is to wipe off any spilled acid on the battery tops. Make sure they're clean and dry. I think the last thing we're going to do is Kevin's going to operate the machine, make sure we got everything great, perfectly adjusted, and then we are done.